Today we're talking to Don Pawlowski. This guy, oh man, talking to him, it felt like we were long lost friends. He is the CTO of University Tees. They are the company, the industry leaders in providing custom t-shirts to college students. We talk about hiring the right people, our wives, Michelle. I apologize in advance. I'm so sorry, Michelle. I love you. We talk about machine learning and even cryptocurrency and financial advice. We are not financial advisors. All this right here, right now on the Modern CTO Podcast.
Here we go.
This is the Modern CTO Podcast.
I want to know about like your origin story. Like what got you excited? Like how did you fall in love with technology?
Yeah, all right. So, my goodness, I guess we'll go back to the days of engineering in college and whatnot. So, I went to Cleveland State University here in my hometown of Cleveland, and didn't really know what else to do. I didn't know what major to pick. I just picked engineering. I was good at math and all that kind of good stuff, and ended up in like civil and structural engineering, and that was okay. But before I graduated, I knew I didn't want to do it or anything relating to structural or civil engineering. But I graduated like 2009, right around the depths of the recession, and jobs were pretty scarce, and I was getting job offers, and so I figured I should just take the job, take the money, and get into it, and maybe things will change. Well, things didn't change. Didn't really like the work. I was designing and engineering bridges specifically. The thing about bridges is that problem's been solved for quite a long time. Bridges have been around for a little bit, and physics doesn't change.
Yeah.
So I began a path out, trying to get out, try to figure out something different, and yeah, I also tried to work my way up into more leadership positions in the industry, but it's such an old line industry that the only way you become leadership is if you've been doing, the grunt work for 20 years. They don't recognize people for leadership skill. They just recognize people for being around for a long time.
Wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that not the most wrong thing you can do? Oh, you've been here
awful,
the longest. Keep
it's
going.
really, really bad. There's the guys managing teams in the structural and civil engineering industry don't even want to be managing teams. They were forced into it just because they've been sitting around for so long, and they needed to do something else with them to advance their career. So it's just bad, right? So I started looking around. I mean, it got to the point where I even was interviewing for a director of purchasing job for a company that sells gas station equipment. Think like the tanks and the lines and the hoses and the pumps.
Super exciting.
Exactly. I was literally looking for anything. And then a friend of mine by the name of Kevin Solorio, he basically just said, "Hey, why don't I teach you how to write code?" I'm like, that sounds like a great idea. Part of, one of my classes in college was like C++, and I did really well at it, and I liked it. And so we began this journey, if you will, where we'd meet at Panera Bread or something similar every Monday night, and he would essentially give me homework and critique the stuff I did, and I'd buy him a bagel every once in a while. And really more out of just the goodness of his heart. He's a really good guy. Just taught me how to write code, and within 2 or 3 months, he had actually announced that he was going to move from Cleveland, and the place he worked, a local like consulting shop here, was silly enough to interview me and hire me a job with only 2 months of self-taught experience. I ended up doing a little bit of I started out doing more project management stuff for them, but slowly just started grabbing different projects and coding, and just became more of a full-flung software developer for them. And just loved it. I mean, the thing that I realized about this technology part versus the engineering part was that it was a different thing and a different challenge and a different puzzle every single day, every single hour, right? You're coding something. It's a logic puzzle every day. The problem has not been solved. It will not be solved because it's a construct of humans, right? And so it just grabbed my attention. I'm very much kind of a guy that needs something new and something different all the time. And to be in this world that is ever changing and always throwing a curveball at you just really kept me glued into it. And so I guess that's kind of like, the love affair with technology right there is it's just, it keeps you guessing. It keeps me interested.
Well, variety is the spice of life, right?
Absolutely.
It's popular because it's true.
Yeah. And it's so bad with me that my wife will tell you, we've had this conversation before where she's like, you're always changing your mind. Are you ever going to change your mind about me? And I'm like, no. Like you're safe there. Like we're good here. Everything else though is like I gotta change it up every once in a while and try something different.
You passed up on the opportunity. You could have kept her on her toes.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was thinking in a year or two.
Right. We're working on a new build. It's in the pipeline. No, right. I love it. Yeah, my wife brings stuff like similar to that up to me all the time. She's like, you're always moving. You're always, so fast. You go from project to project to project. And I was like, if I was working a 9 to 5 on one long-term project, I would have to find the variety within that project to do different things and to scale and to keep it interesting. Otherwise I would die. Like I always have to be, I love learning. I love learning new things and putting it to practice and growing as like a person. So software is the place to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to, right? If you don't learn, you die. Excellent. Truthfully, in this environment. So
I want to get a little bit great introduction overview of like who you are and your origin story. So you're a CTO now, right?
Correct.
Okay, excellent. And that is what company?
University Tees.
Excellent.
As in t-shirts.
Beautiful. You're making the t-shirts. Tell me a little bit more about so you make t-shirts, sell t-shirts.
Yeah. So the company was started, a little over a decade ago. And the problem they were solving was awful customer service with custom apparel for sororities and fraternities. So the two co-founders were in a business fraternity and they just needed shirts for some event they were holding. And the local mom and pop shops just, the service was awful. There was one person who did it and they treated their customers like crap and they saw an opportunity. And so they started, selling their own, not apparel, but like the designs for the apparel. Everything we do is custom. Every single order that we receive is a custom order, which has its own very unique challenges. And so it took off. They were at Miami University in Ohio, and it took off, and they started hiring their friends at other campuses to go out and find these sororities and fraternities that needed custom apparel. And they outsourced a lot of the actual decorating of the apparel to, shops that existed. And about, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago now, started their own print shop. And so not only do we go out and sell the work and we do the artwork, we also print the shirts, screen printing, embroidery, all that stuff in-house now too. We obviously still outsource things. We can't do all the work ourselves, but it's just solely around selling custom shirts to sorority girls, really. And they spend amazing. A lot of money on it.
Yeah, and
like a lot of money.
Yeah, trust me, my house, like I'm fighting my wife on the decorations. It's like I'm not kidding you. This week I literally said she was buying some decorations and I was like, that's about $300 in decorations right there that came through on Amazon, right? Right? Tell me about it. That's what I was like. Yeah, and I instantly said to her, I go, do you know how many Facebook ads that is? I could reach like 7,000 people. I could help 7,000 people like learn and get more information but no, we have garland. We have lit garland.
Well, you want the banister to look nice.
Of course, it's essential. It's essential.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple things. So I'm actually poking around on your site while we talk. Okay.
Okay, cool.
And I like the bird. Okay.
Yeah, the bird's great. Bruno, we call him Bruno.
Bruno the bird. It's got the alliteration and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
The designs are super modern, and your photography is like on point, right? So you're responsible ultimately. You're the CTO of the company. You're responsible for the website. I love how you went with the clean look, and I know it sounds a little bit geeky, but when I see those drop downs, like I genuinely appreciate the drop downs. They're good. They're like really good. Like nothing bothers me more than like a poorly designed drop down or a drop down that like isn't solid functioning, like one that feels really good.
Sure. I can't take all the credit for that. We got a really solid team here, designers. Our marketing team is amazing to work with. Our chief creative officer is just a phenomenal guy. He's got a lot of talent, and the one of our our senior UX and front end developer he really understands the work, and he takes a tremendous amount of pride in his craft. And so really all I did was hire him and get out of his way. So I can't take a lot of credit for that site.
No, we were talking about that on the show this week with a gentleman who has a gaming company, and they have about 300 to 400 employees, and they make tons of mobile games, right? Large company. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about the whole, Steve Jobs and many other great leaders have said this or something similar, that you hire people who are smarter than you and you let them tell you what to do. You like resource them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this comes up often on my team. It's, as long as I take care of the team and I hire the right people and I make sure they're good culture fit, there's the things I look for when I'm hiring someone. Are they a motivated individual? Are they a nice person? And do they have the ability to learn?
Oh,
even those three things, if I nail those, then the work gets done for free, truthfully. And all I have to do is concentrate on the people. And so if you make that happen, then beautiful websites like the one you're looking at, they happen for free, truthfully.
No, so I had made tons of mistakes in my career, right? That's how right. It's basically, I've got if somebody says they have a lot of experience, they say, I screwed up a lot and I learned from it. Right.
Yeah.
So when I found, and it was magical when I had the aha moment, but when I found that if I hire better people and spend more money and make less money, like on margin, when the specific context is like making apps on contract, right? Mm-hmm. If I give up that margin and instead charge the amount that I can hire like the best possible people, my life becomes amazingly simple.
Sure.
The best designers, the best developers, the best testers, put them all together in a room and pay them the rate that they need to care enough to do like the quality job, and that they're motivated, and they just like, they do the project. They do the project. It's amazing, and it comes out great. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can't stress it enough. I mean, the people is where it's at.
So I have a couple more questions for you. You have a math background, right? You enjoyed it and were good at it. Have you taken a look at any of the machine learning type technologies out there?
A little bit. It's
tiny bit.
Yeah, it's not. I haven't devoted the amount of time that I should have to it, but we do have some potential really strong use cases for it, and we have a lot of images. Again, we're custom apparel. Every order we do is custom. So we get a college kid coming in saying, I want this t-shirt for whatever. They shoot us over an image, and then our art team turns that into something, and then they shoot it back, and then there's a revision, and then someone has another idea. And so we have tons of images, and the problem that we have right now as a company is we aren't reusing those images like we should be. We don't know where those images are. We can't find those images easily. We could start tagging images, but that's an extra process that the art team has, each artist has to undertake. And they're creative people. They don't want to worry about administrative tagging of stuff. They just want to create art, right? And so we've started very basically looking into these machine learning or things like I think Amazon has something called recognition or whatever. Basically, reading these images and tagging them for us so we can use them in house. The problem, the thing I'm finding, and it's the place where I have to spend more time into learning about, is a lot of that works really great for photos, not necessarily like illustrations. And so I'm curious to see, I got to get more into the weeds with that to see what's really going on with that. It's super intriguing to me, and I think there's a tremendous opportunity to get into to utilize those technologies. But admittedly, I am pretty barren in it.
Excellent. That's honesty, and that's what we go for, right? So I found that that quality. I'm going to take a second to reflect back on it. That is an undervalued quality. That when I find people with it, I love to tag them as experts, because the person that is intelligent and can tell you, look, I know a little bit about it. We played a little about it, but I really don't know about it. That person's 9 times out of 10, in my experience, a great person. The person to watch out for is when you bring up 20 different topics and they're an expert on all of them. It's like,
oh, sure.
Right. So that's the person.
Not a thing.
Yeah. So I actually played a little bit. I have almost no experience with it as well, but I did play a little bit with it, and it looked like that service you were talking about. Like you said, it's great for recognizing objects in images. So like when I'm looking on your site right now, it's like every object would be like typography.
Right.
Every photo would be tagged with typography.
Yeah. Great. Thanks. We weren't aware of that yet.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. No, that's right. And so that's kind of like, I would love to find the service that helps us identify, the image that has like the little pumpkin in it for some kind of Halloween party they did, or, the dog for whatever, all those kinds of little characteristics that show up in illustration for whatever reason. At least when I checked, again, I haven't gone into it in about a year since the last time I really looked at what was available. But that would be a game changer if we can implement stuff like that.
Yeah, I did see when Halloween time came out, there was one of the guys that's apparently a personality inside of machine learning. He did a blog post that was shared several thousand times, and he actually had the machine learning system draw mashup costumes, like sketches of different popular Halloween costumes. And you could go check that out and Google around for that after the call. But it was kind of cool to see the machine like learn to draw and then draw some costumes, and some of them were pretty comical. 80% was probably useless, but
sure,
the 20% that came out were kind of, it's like watching a little baby walk. It's like cool for a second. It's like, all right, great. Yeah.
Spooky. Well, I didn't mean to say spooky. That was a pun, I guess. Weird.
I'll put a rim shot in when we're editing. You can see.
Oh, man.
You all right? I got your back, Don. I'm Team Don here.
Oh man, that's my team's fault. There's so much punning going on a daily basis around my team that it's just starting to rub off on me, which is unfortunate.
Right. Are you a dad?
I am a dad of 2.
Oh, I'm a dad of 1 right now, 11 weeks old.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So
wow.
You know how much sleep I have?
Yeah. Sleep's a luxury, man.
Yeah, I noticed the dad jokes started kicking up the moment my wife had the baby.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Right.
It's all in us. It's just waiting for that trigger.
Exactly. So, all right, here's a good one for you. I want to know the problem you described. You're an engineer, right? We solve problems. That's what we do, And you were mentioning that there's a lot of back and forth between the customer and the design team and that whole flow, the core of your business. Did you roll something your own to handle that process, or did you leverage another technology?
Everything we have is hand rolled, essentially. Everything. So, and I've looked at other ERPs that could run our systems. We've done trials with things like Shopify. We've tested different platforms, and they just don't work because of the custom nature of our business. They weren't meant for it, right? They're meant to sell that same black T-shirt with the same white lettering, Cleveland or nowhere stuff every time, and the variations are large and extra large and whatever. but so everything we have is hand rolled, and so that interaction with the customer, we are the main person using our applications, and we have two main applications, and then a couple of like little websites like uts.com, like you were checking out. Our campus managers, the college kids, they're the contractors, they kind of go out and find work and whatever, and find these organizations that are looking for custom apparel. They interact with our application by uploading an image, chatting with the art team. We have a little state machine that like art uploaded, art requested, art revision requested, those kinds of things, and they use that to get the artwork nailed down, and then they go to a checkout phase where we're using Braintree to collect credit card information. And that goes on to our operations team where it gets approved and scheduled, and then we actually purchase the apparel from whatever the like American Apparel or Gildan or some of those bigger brands.
How are they doing, by the way? How is American? Are they still around, American Apparel?
Yeah, well, they were bought by Gildan, which is a lot of. I mean, that's not like a name you would recognize if you're not like in the industry, I suppose. But Gildan's probably one of the biggest apparel manufacturers.
Oh, okay.
If not the biggest, I think. They bought American Apparel recently, and I'm not sure where it got left off, but it may not be so American made anymore. I think they might try to have a specific American made brand or product line within that. But
Right.
we're actually kind of hopeful about it, because when Gildan gets its hands on something, it tends to make it better, at least as far as like stock is concerned. Stock is getting our hands on the apparel that our customers want ends up being a bigger problem than you might expect. And so we kind of get excited when someone's going to say they're going to actually improve the availability and the stock of an item.
No, you know what? I had about 6 or 7 months ago, we had this app launching. It was a fitness related app, right? We built for a customer, and one of their ways to get the word out was they printed up a bunch of the really nice, like the nice gym shirts that like feel really good, like the Under Armour type ones. So they wanted to get a bunch of those printed up with their logo on it and then go hand them out for free at gyms. And I was just blown away by the difficulty of this process that I figured had been so simple and modernized by, this day, right?
Sure.
And it was like pulling teeth. And so like I'm not a fan of ordering t-shirts. I don't know if that's something anyone's a fan of, but the opportunity was like blinding. And it looks like you guys have just taken all the stress out of it in the university context, right?
We're trying. I mean, there's still a lot of room for improvement, which is the exciting part. Which is, if nothing more, is job security.
Yeah.
For myself, but there's a lot of cool problems that we can solve yet, that my team can solve together, and and you could almost just close your eyes and spin around and point at some place in one of our offices, and you'll stumble upon something that you can deliver $100 or $200 or $500,000 of return on investment on pretty easily. The runway is so wide and so long right now, and that's really the exciting time around here. We're doing a great job, but there's so many things we can do better, and a lot of that is through technology and solving problems and thinking about it differently.
Yeah. How large is the company? Like how many? I know you said you do some stuff with some freelance graphic artist people, right? Or at least that's the way I took it. But I'm sure you have like internal designers and everything internal as well. But how large is your internal team?
So we have, if you count the print shop, we have somewhere around 160, 180 employees, team members at any given moment. So the majority of that is in the print shop. We try to, I think we print somewhere around 70% of the orders we take in right now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and we're always expanding. We're trying to always expand the print shop being conscious of like seasonality. We have some pretty strong seasonality in the fall and the spring are peak seasons, and so we have to staff up big time for those areas because kids coming back or starting their new semester or whatever.
Well, rush is like the time.
Exactly.
It's like yeah, and that's when you got to have the shirts. You got to have the shirts at rush. So important.
I mean that's our biggest time, and getting into sororities and fraternities and making sure we try to get we're starting on those orders early in the summer, just making sure they're ready to go, trying to meet that demand.
Here's a problem I'm facing. Okay, so these podcasts are going great. We've just been recording them back to back. We got 30 scheduled, right?
Nice.
Yeah, the next 2 months are just booked solid, and we have all awesome CTOs like you, and we have this big editing queue that's going to happen with editing the audio and chopping it up. And you would be a good person to ask. So we have 3 or 4 people that we've interviewed and talked to for editing the audio. And they each seem to have, 2 or 3 different softwares that they use, like ones that they really like, right? And so for graphics, you would have, your Photoshop, your Illustrators, your Sketch. I don't know if they use Sketch, but we do in our teams for signing out. Yeah. So how do you deal with the different people wanting to use the different software and your assets being compatible for people to rip stuff out of?
Yeah. So it's a good question. It actually hasn't been too big of a deal on our team side. The one thing, early on in the company, it's one thing. A lot of people get all bent out of shape about especially big corporations, like the bring your own device crowd, right?
Right.
Bring your own software crowd. At some point you have to standardize for productivity's sake. I'm not sure how the art team used to operate, but as far as, for the last 3 years that I've been here, they pretty much all use the exact same tooling. And I don't know that they would let someone use something different because of, especially, you're not the only artist that is going to touch a piece of art before the order goes out. Someone else may come in and do a revision for you. It depends on who's got what in the queue and when it comes in and when the customer needs it, and that's the kind of stuff. So having consistency across the tools that are being used is important for us because, our art team is it's probably our bottleneck right now, right? We do so much art that we have to focus on efficiency of that team. And not only are we putting technology resources into it, we're putting, lean manufacturing processes around that team and testing stuff all the time to make it as functional as possible. And so having consistent tooling is a really big part of that.
Fantastic. I'm going to change the conversation a little bit because I want your opinion on a couple things that I've been talking about this week. I want to know what your thoughts are on cryptocurrency as a whole. You can touch any part of it that you want.
Oh man, it's amazing what a dramatic increase in a price target will do to the frickin' world.
It set it on fire.
So, my sister, who obviously I love very much, her and her husband, and I love him very much. They brought up the concept of cryptocurrency to me a couple months ago, and it's I guess it's just because you're a tech dude, so you probably know something about this crypto thing, and I guess I know a little bit. I don't know a lot at all, and they're like, well, do you think we should invest? And I'm like, whoa, I mean. What do you I don't even know how to be. I mean, I feel like it's I don't know, the thing. It was so volatile then. This is over the summer, right? We were talking swings between a couple $100 and maybe 1,000 or two. I don't even remember. I'm like, well, wait for the next big dip, right? Well, sure enough, it hits 14 or 15, and she's texting me. She's like, I guess we missed it, huh? And I'm like, maybe not. I mean, probably not, right?
It's such a horrible spot to be in.
It just comes out of nowhere. She swoops in. She's like, "Hey, crypto, we did it? We didn't do it good." I'm like, I don't know.
It's all your
and then
fault.
I got a buddy of mine who just bought a few a while ago because for shits and giggles, more or less.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sitting on a bunch of cash right now. He's like, I'm kind of scared. What do I do with this? I was like, dude, I don't know. This is uncharted territory for pretty much literally everyone. I don't know. I feel like it's got to come back down, right? Like all these people can make some money. Standard market economics says like there'll be a crash at some point, and maybe not a big crash, but like the stock market goes up and down every couple of years. Like I'm sure Bitcoin's going to go up and down every couple of years, but like,
Well,
I don't know.
So it's human.
Who knows, right? It's a complete like fabrication.
Yeah, like here's the thing. So whether you have the concept of like value, right? But then you also have like the human component where we're humans. We decide the value together.
Yeah.
So you could take anything, regardless of what its like value is, and you can artificially inflate it, like like the tulips in the 1800s or 1900s or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when everyone decides it's not valuable, they exit. So for me, the human part of it is the thing that sends my spidey senses tingling with it going up, because everyone's like, oh man, yeah, it's so exciting. I'm getting 20% or 100% a week. It's growing at 100% a week. It's like, it's crazy. And it's going up, up, up. And I'm like, eventually someone's gonna be like, all right, I'm good. Like I'm going to start taking my money out. And then the price will sort of like, level off. And then everyone's like, well, this isn't exciting anymore. I was getting 100%. And now it's been flat for 3 months. Screw it. Let's pull my $1 million out. And then that's when you get the roller coaster like down effect, right?
Yep.
Where it's like, oh man.
See, I guess so. The people who've asked me, and again, I don't know why they're asking me. I'm not an expert. I don't have any Bitcoin. I don't really know much about it. Again, because I'm a tech guy, apparently I know.
Well, you're not we need to make it very clear that neither Joel nor Don have passed any sort of financial certification.
Yeah, we do not have your best interests in mind.
Yes, we are not financial advisors. Right. There we go. That's the SEC compliance, so we're good. We're good.
Right. Good. So now we can say where the heck we
want.
I got, I guess the people have asked me, I'm saying like, if you haven't sold a little bit to at least recoup your initial investment, you're stupid. You gotta like at least take a little off the table. If you want to let the rest ride because you think it's going to go to 30,000 or 40,000 or whatever the heck, more power to you, man. But like, I don't like. I used to watch Jim Cramer a lot, the CNBC guy.
Oh, I love him. I need the buttons on my show.
Yes, you do need the buttons on your show.
Yeah, feature creep, feature creep, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. That would probably send you to the top of the charts, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, of course.
But he always had a saying that bulls make money, bears make money, and hogs get slaughtered. So I feel like if you're being a pig and just waiting for it to go higher, you're going to get slaughtered. So I don't know, sell some Bitcoin and go buy your wife some fancy dinner or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I had a guy who called me up and he said, I made a ton of money off Bitcoin and I would like you to develop my own exchange because I want to take my money from Bitcoin and develop my own exchange. He had made more than a few $1 million in Bitcoin, right? Oof. I know. And so he goes, how much would it cost? If you're going down that path. And so then he sends me another message later after he's like, oh yeah, we want to move forward. And he says, should I just hold my Bitcoin? It's going up, 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 up. Like what? And then he asked me this amazing question that everybody does when they want information. What would you do? Right.
Right.
And then they're going to hold you to that as if it was your professional opinion. No, it's like, so I told him this. I said, here's what I'd do. If I had made a bunch of money and I wanted to invest and let some of it ride, I'd pull some of it out and I'd buy a cabin in the mountains because I want a vacation home in the mountains. Like I love going up there. And I would call that my Bitcoin cabin. And no matter what happened in life, whether it went up or it went down to zero, I would always be able to say, hey, I went into that Bitcoin thing and I put in $10,000 and I got my vacation. I got my peace spot. I got my Bitcoin spot. It's my Bitcoin cabin. And I would be totally okay with it. It's similar to what you're saying.
That's some sound advice.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. Just take a little bit off the table and do something for yourself.
Exactly. And then there's no regret.
And if you haven't bought Bitcoin yet, wait for the dip. I don't know. That's the Modern CTO Podcast. Our official position on Bitcoin is wait for the dip. Apply that to a lot of things probably too, right? Just wait for the dip.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
All right. Artificial. All right. So virtual reality, consumer behavior, virtual reality. Do you know anyone today that spends an hour in virtual reality?
No.
Me either, man. I don't know. Been around since the 80s. Always getting better. I don't see the.
But it hasn't caught hold yet.
No, it's like 20 years. I think so. Right. Like I think we'll be 20 years in the future.
Yeah.
We'll be there. That's been one of the least predictable things to me. Right.
I'm just waiting for, the people who create the warehouses, and you can put on some VR thing and you can run around doing, God knows what, pretending you're in a paintball game or something. That sounds like fun. When that happens, I'll be into the VR stuff.
Well, Don,
I know it has happened to some degree.
I'm going to make your Friday, Don.
Okay.
Those exist.
Is there one by me?
Is there one by you? I don't know.
That's what I need.
I think there's one in Orlando, and it's really cool because I'm down in Florida, so they had a video I saw online where they like hang materials in the room. So as you're actually walking through the room, you like feel the materials, and yeah.
I like that. See, that might be cool, but I don't. I mean, I guess if laser tag was a thing at some point, right? These could be a thing for people buying storefronts, and I guess that's what they'll do with all the empty, like, Best Buy stores and whatnot. You can do like your virtual reality, like whatever.
Brought to you by Amazon, putting everyone else out of business.
Amazon VR adventure, we'll call it. No, actually, that would be too literal. If you're naming things and you're from Amazon, you have to make it super obscure.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Thank you, web
Route
services.
53.
Yeah. Have you, there's a book that follows Jeff Bezos' life story, and I listened to it on Audible, and they go through the whole, like, from him, they skipped his parents having sex. They skipped that part, but they started with him being born, and they went through this whole childhood, and they came all the way up through like Amazon. I think the book like 4 years ago ended, right? So you've got some inside information on the development of Amazon as recent as 4 years. And that like blew my mind, hearing all those little details about how he handled each of the different situations with Amazon, and how they negotiated and bought other businesses out, and how they grew the Amazon market share and put other businesses out of business. Have you come across that book?
I have not. It sounds like I should probably give that a read, though.
Oh yeah, he goes in, and you can kind of get a real good feel for how he makes decisions, and he's very minimalist, right? So you can go through like how he makes decisions and how they acquire companies and how they basically put everyone else out of business. And it's no surprise to me that in the past 4 months he became one of the wealthiest people on earth. I think he surpassed Bill Gates for number one.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I just got off the Elon Musk biography.
Love it.
And loved it. So I can imagine I would like this one just as much. It's just interesting, especially a guy like Elon, who, I mean, is the one who's using technology to change the world and not bring us Snapchat.
No, I love it, man. I've read that book as well, right? And how awesome. Well, first of all, he's an awesome person, right? Like I'm a fan. I like him. I liked him after reading his story. I didn't know him before it. You feel like you know someone when you read their story, right? South Africa, Canada, States, his whole different companies, and how he lived in his office with his brother and showered across the street at the Y or whatever, all that good stuff. So I always like look at him when I have a business, because he perfectly like characterizes like being a minimalistic startup. But he also, man, did he push it, right? Like how many times did every one of his businesses like almost go out of business?
Yeah. Talk about, oh man, couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
No,
I'm too risk averse for that kind of stuff,
Yeah, me too. Like I'm risk adverse, but I'll take a risk, but it's a risk that I can absorb. Like everyone has a different word for risk, right? Like they have a different way that they feel about it. Like some people put everything in, like, oh, I'm going to go 100% in on like black, right? And roll the dice, right? But for me, I'll take a risk that like I'm okay losing. Like that's how much risk I'll put up, right? So you gotta mitigate. It's like hedging, right? So
Right. Makes it even more interesting now that you have a kid, I'm sure.
oh,
Does that change your calculus a little
it
bit?
changed my budget. it
Oh, dude, wait till daycare starts.
Oh no.
It's not good. It's really not good.
We're actually broadcasting from our office that we just moved into about this week. Yeah.
Nice.
So I had
I like that.
yeah, we have 10 people at my app company, right? And
Okay.
but we're all experts, and they all work from either shared co-work spaces or their houses, and they're great. Like, hire the best people, right? And when I had the kid, my lovely child, I had to get out of the house. So I got an office, and then that's how this whole modern CTO thing happened. I was like, well, I got the office, and we have our app thing. Like, I don't know if you know about what I do, but I work with investors, and they inject capital into companies, and we usually build technology. So I don't do a lot of like public work where people just like come to my company and are like, hey, we want an app. It's usually just through friends, like, relationships. So
yeah.
So I'm not like struggling to like market or grow it. Like, I kind of like where it's at, and I wanted to help I don't know about you, but for me, I was a self-taught developer, and my dad was a programmer. He'd take me to work with them, and I like spent a lot of energy and effort learning, and a lot of head banging against the keyboard type situations, everything from like through programming, figuring it out, through my first couple of deals, and selling them, and the whole finance, and you have to learn about seeds and investors, and like you have to learn all about that, all the way through like management and scaling, and getting people in the dynamics of like making people feel heard, and all the people part of it, right? So I struggled through all of that, and then my goal with this modern CTO was, well, why don't I put it all into a book, and then push it out there as far and wide as possible, and get the information out, right? So that the 13-year-old version of me could come across this book and read it, and just have a little bit better chance, just avoid a few of the mistakes that I made, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to give me some advice that you would give your previous self to avoid some mistakes.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know, it's real. This is now real talk on the Modern CTO.
This is real talk. This is like put me on the spot kind of talk. All right, so advice that I would give.
Elon Musk creates a time machine, and he says, hey, Don, come over here, and my time machine business is almost going out of business. I'm going to try to get NASA to help save us, but it might not be possible. So I want you to come over here and use the time machine real quick. And you would go talk to, but it can only go back to 10 years ago, and you can only talk to your previous self. Like, what would you say?
Oh man. All right. So what are my parameters here? Do I got to keep it tech related? Got to keep it life related?
Anything at all. Right now, you walk through a time machine, you see yourself 10 years ago. What do you do?
Oh man. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is don't break up with my wife the first time I did that. That was really stupid.
Oh my God, that's so good. That's so good. Done.
Still the dumbest thing I've done. My mom told me. I didn't believe her.
If only I had the Jim Cramer soundboard.
Right. Tony, you gotta get it.
I gotta get it. Done. Next piece. Next piece of advice.
Oh man. Well, there's so many possible things. I guess that. Yeah, I guess it's I mentioned earlier that I'm a pretty risk averse guy, but I mean that has done. I mean it's done well for me, but there's definitely opportunities that I've probably passed up on because of that. Not taking the right risk. You put it a good way, like risk as much as you're willing to lose. And for me, I'm not often willing to lose really anything.
So you're a pretty content person.
I honestly am. It's weird. Like And I'm definitely not infallible, and I'm definitely not like, I don't have all the answers for sure, but this is honestly like a really hard question for me to answer. Because I feel pretty good about, where I've been and where I've gone to and how things have shaped up in the last 10 years. I take, when I do make a decision, because I am a risk averse person, I spend a ton of time making that decision. Like, here's an example. When I was trying to pick out a backpacking stove, I spent 2 full days reading reviews on REI.com and talking to people before I decided to make that $40 purchase. Now, if you calculate the amount of hours that went into that and, assign me an hourly rate, that wasn't a great investment, but I still did it. And so I think that served me well, with all the other decisions I make. Because I feel like, I've got a great job. I've got a great team. I've got a great family. I got a great house. I think I've done pretty okay. I mean, there's definitely there's some things I would have liked to have learned sooner. A lot of different books that I've been reading lately, have been nice to read those 10 years ago, and maybe would have accelerated some different things for me.
Including the Musk book? Including the Musk book?
Including the Musk book, sure, absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, because I would have used, if I go back in time and do the Musk book, then I would have just leveraged that stock wise when he was almost out of money.
Right.
I would have been like, oh, you want to do a debt? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, okay, here it is. Yeah. I got it.
Done.
I got it. I would have bought Bitcoin about 5 or 10 years ago.
Snap. I mean, there's people that are listening. I didn't even pick up on this. So whatever. But there's people that are listening that are screaming at the speaker buy Bitcoin.
Right. Full circle. Yeah. We just brought it back around.
Right. Done. Excellent. Yeah, that sounds like a great spot to end, I guess. I mean, this is definitely an amazing conversation. I had one guy yesterday, very, very cool guy, excellent conversation like you, right? And he was so fast when I asked him that question. I said, what advice you would give yourself? He goes, you're always right. That's his advice. He said to himself, he's like, don't worry about it, you're always right. And I was like, wow, dude, I want to be you, because I am not. I am wrong a lot, right?
The fun thing that's going to happen is this question is going to eat at me for the next couple of days, and I'll come up with a good answer, and I'll make sure I send that over to you. But yeah, after time, I can't. This one's going to eat me for a while.
No worries. I did not. By the way, that was.
Thanks for that.
That was not the intent. Yeah, let's screw with this guy. That's how I was talking to Jake before the cast. I was like, let's drop this bomb right at the end, and then just walk away and be like, see ya, and he's just going to start crying in his office.
Yeah, you need the mic drop sound right now.
Boom, mic drop. Thank you so much for listening to the Modern CTO Podcast. Share this, get the word out. Thank you guys so much. I couldn't do it without you. I appreciate it. You guys are the absolute best.